All right, let's get right into it. You've probably heard the saying that we're all drowning in data, but absolutely starving for insight. Well, today we're going to build the bridge that gets us from one to the other. We are talking about data storytelling, that absolutely essential skill that turns raw numbers into real, actual decisions. Look, we've all been there, haven't we? Staring at some dashboard that's just packed with charts, or a report that's 50 pages long, and at the end of it, nobody has a clue what to do next. That's because data and analysis on their own just don't cut it. The real magic, the thing that turns a pile of numbers into genuine understanding and a clear path forward, is storytelling. It's what gets people to understand and, more importantly, to actually do something.
But hold on. Before we can tell a single story, we have to be able to trust our main character, and that's the data itself. A great story that's built on bad data, well, that's just a well-told lie. And that's exactly why the foundation of everything we're about to do is a little process called ETL.
So, ETL. It stands for extract, transform, and load. First, we extract the raw data from wherever it lives. Then, the important part, we transform it. We clean it up, we give it structure, we make it meaningful, and finally, we load it into a system where it's all ready for analysis. All this work happens behind the scenes, but it's what makes the story we tell on the main stage so powerful and, reliable.
Okay, to make this all feel a bit more real, we're going to work with a hands-on example, a data set of house prices. It's got info on things like the number of rooms, how far a house is from employment centers, and of course, the property's value. Our whole goal here is to turn this simple spreadsheet into a story a business can actually use to make a decision.
So this is what we're starting with. This is our data at the very beginning. And honestly, it's just a list of numbers. Is 6.575 rooms a lot? Is a distance of 4.09 good or bad? Without any context, these are just numbers floating in space. There's no story here. Not yet anyway.
And here's where that transform step does its magic. We take those raw, kind of confusing numbers and we turn them into these business-friendly categories that anyone can get their head around. A house with 6.5 rooms, that's now a medium home. A distance of 6.08, that's far. See? Now we're not just looking at data points, we're looking at concepts we can have a real conversation about.
Okay, so our data is clean, it's reliable, it's understandable. Now what? How do we actually shape this into a story that gets people to listen? Well, we do it with this, a simple but really powerful 6-step framework. Just think of it as our roadmap to get from data to an actual decision.
First up, step 1, tell the story of the data. Every good story needs an opening scene, right? So we start with the big picture just to give everyone the context they need.
So what's our opening scene?
Well, the average house value is around 22.5. The typical property has about 6 rooms, and it's pretty clear there's a wide range in prices. This gives everyone in the room a baseline, a shared understanding of the world we're about to dig into.
Okay, with the context set, we move to step 2. We need to identify the significant changes. This is where we're basically hunting for those aha moments, the key patterns, the sudden shifts. This is where the plot of our story really starts to take shape.
And right away, in our data set, the first key insight is it's impossible to miss. It's the headline of our story. As you add more rooms to a house, its value goes up. This is the main thread, the most significant relationship we've found so far.
But a good story has layers, it has complexity, and so does good analysis. So for step 3, we need to consider the variation. This is all about looking past the main headline and finding the nuances that make our story more honest and more complete.
Because as we start digging in, we find something interesting. Even homes with the exact same number of rooms can have wildly different prices. And that tells us something critical. Sure, the number of rooms is important, but it is definitely not the whole story. There's something else going on here, which kind of adds a layer of mystery.
So now we're going to pivot. We're going to move from just analyzing what happened in the past to shaping what happens next. Step 4 is all about highlighting where some kind of action is required. This is where our story starts to have a real impact on the business.
And boom, here it is. We find the critical turning point in our story. As we slice and dice the data, we discover this giant hole. There are absolutely no small homes listed in far locations. I mean, 0, nothing. This isn't just a number, this is a major clue.
This one discovery immediately leads to a massive strategic question. Is this a data gap? Is our data collection just incomplete? Or
Could this be a market gap, an untapped opportunity where nobody is building or selling small homes in those areas? Answering this one question could literally change the whole game.
An insight without action is, let's be honest, just a piece of trivia. For our story to have a real impact, we need clear ownership. And that brings us to step 5, identifying who is going to lead the charge on what we've just found.
So we make it concrete. We don't leave it vague. The data team, your job is to go and validate that potential data gap. The analyst, you're tasked with looking for other variables that might explain some of these price differences. And the business team, you need to take these findings and use them to refine your pricing strategy. See, now everyone knows exactly what the role is.
And finally, the last piece of the puzzle. This is what ensures our story actually has an ending. We have to set a deadline. Because an action without a timescale, it's just a wish. Step 6 is all about creating momentum and accountability.
So we lay out a super clear timeline. Immediately, right now, we need to validate that data anomaly we found. In the short term, let's build some better dashboards so we can monitor these trends. And thinking long term, our big strategic goal is to enrich our data set so we can tell even better, smarter stories in the future.
And there you have it. We've gone from a messy spreadsheet of raw numbers to a concise, powerful narrative. The full story is clear, it's insightful, and most importantly, it's actionable. This is what you bring to a leadership meeting. This is how you drive smart decisions.
And this framework we just walked through, this is your repeatable blueprint for getting there every single time. By following these 6 steps, you systematically go from being someone who just reports on data to someone who uses it to actually influence decisions and move the business forward.
Ultimately, that's really what this is all about, isn't it? The true power of data isn't in the bits and the bytes or how big the database is. It's in our ability to communicate what it all means. Because data, by itself, doesn't have a voice. Our job as storytellers is to give it one.